Most people think breastfeeding is simply about feeding a baby. But during the first 6 months of life, something much deeper is happening. Because in this stage, your baby isn't just growing in size. Their body is building systems that will affect how they think, how they fight illness, and how they develop over time. And what they receive during these months plays a much bigger role than most people realize. Exclusive breastfeeding means giving your baby only breast milk. No water. No formula. No solid food. At first, that can sound surprising. Especially when you consider how often babies feed, or how hot the weather can be. But this recommendation isn't random. It's based on how a baby's body actually develops in those early months. Because during this time, your baby's needs are very specific. And breast milk is designed to meet those needs in a way that changes as your baby grows. One of the most important things happening in your baby's body during these months is the development of their immune system. At birth, a baby's immune system is still immature. They are entering a world full of new bacteria, viruses, and environmental changes. But their body is not yet fully prepared to handle all of it on its own. This is where breast milk plays a powerful role. It doesn't just provide nutrition. It also provides protective support while your baby's own immune defenses are still developing. This is part of the reason many exclusively breastfed babies experience fewer infections early in life. Not because they are never exposed, but because their bodies are being supported as they learn to respond. Another major change happening during these months is brain development. In fact, the first 6 months are one of the fastest periods of brain growth your baby will ever experience. During this time, billions of connections are forming. These connections are the foundation for learning, memory, and behavior. Breast milk contains key nutrients that support this process. But what makes it unique is that it is not static. It changes over time. As your baby grows, the composition of breast milk adapts to match what their body needs at each stage. This means your baby is not just being fed. They are being supported in a very dynamic way. Then there's your baby's digestive system. In the early months, it is still developing and very sensitive. Breast milk is naturally gentle and easy for your baby to digest. It moves through their system in a way that their body can handle. Introducing other foods or liquids too early can sometimes place stress on this developing system. Because your baby's body may not yet be ready to process anything beyond what it was designed for at that stage. Another point that often surprises many parents is hydration. There is a common belief that babies need water, especially in hot weather. But for the first 6 months, breast milk already provides all the fluid your baby needs. It adjusts in composition to help keep your baby hydrated. So even when the weather is warm, additional water is not necessary. In fact, giving water too early can sometimes interfere with how much breast milk your baby takes in. And that can reduce the overall nutritional balance they receive. Beyond the physical changes, something else is happening quietly during these months. Emotional development. Feeding is not just about nutrition. It's also about connection. Each feeding moment creates a sense of closeness, warmth, and security. Over time, these repeated experiences help your baby feel safe in their environment. And that sense of safety plays an important role in how they respond to the world around them. It influences how they form bonds, how they handle stress, and how they develop emotionally. What may look like a simple routine is actually shaping how your baby experiences comfort and trust. And all of this is happening at a stage where your baby cannot explain what they feel. But they are learning from every interaction. By the time you reach the middle of those 6 months, many of these systems are still developing. But they are also becoming stronger. And what you've been consistently providing during this time continues to support that process in ways that are not always immediately. As these months continue, something else becomes clearer. The effects of exclusive breastfeeding are not just short-term. They don't stop at digestion or early immunity. Some of what is happening during this time can continue to influence your baby well beyond the first 6 months. Because early development is not isolated. It builds on itself. The way your baby's body grows, adapts, and responds during this stage can shape patterns that carry forward into later childhood. For example, when your baby's immune system is supported early on, it doesn't just help them in the moment. It helps their body learn how to respond over time. In a similar way, the brain development happening now is not just about the present. It lays the groundwork for how your child learns, focuses, and processes information later. But one of the most overlooked aspects of these first 6 months is consistency. Because it's not just what is given to your baby. It's how consistently their body receives it. Day after day, feeding after feeding. Your baby's system is being supported in a steady, predictable way. And that consistency matters. It allows their body to adjust, respond, and develop without unnecessary disruption. This is one reason why introducing other foods or liquids too early can sometimes interrupt that process. Not always in obvious ways, but in subtle ways that affect how your baby's body adapts. Another important perspective to understand is this. Babies at this stage are not just small adults. Their bodies function differently. Their needs are different. And what works for an older child or adult does not always apply to a baby in the first 6 months of life. This is why something like giving water, which seems harmless, is not actually needed at this stage. Because your baby's body is already receiving exactly what it requires through breast milk. And adding anything extra can sometimes replace what their body actually needs more of. There's also the question many parents quietly ask. Is what I'm doing really enough? Especially during moments when feeding feels frequent or tiring. But what often isn't visible is how much is already being provided in each feeding. Not just in quantity, but in quality. Because breast milk is not just food. It's a living, responsive source of support that continues to adjust to your baby's needs. And this is something many people don't fully realize. Now, this doesn't mean the journey is always easy. For many parents, exclusive breastfeeding can come with challenges. Physical, emotional, and even practical. And every situation is different. But understanding what is happening behind the scenes can bring a different level of awareness to the process. Because when you understand the purpose behind something, it often changes how you experience it. Even in small ways. And by the time your baby reaches the end of those 6 months, they are not the same as when they started. Their body is stronger. Their systems are more developed. And they are more prepared for the next stage of growth. Which is when other foods can gradually be introduced. Alongside continued breastfeeding. So when people talk about the first 6 months, it's not just a timeline. It's a very specific window of development. A period where your baby's body is rapidly building, learning, and adapting. And what supports that process can have effects that extend far beyond what is immediately visible. At the same time, it's important to remember that every parent's journey looks different. And feeding decisions are not always straightforward. But having clear, accurate information gives you the ability to make choices with more confidence. Because in the end, it's not just about following a recommendation. It's about understanding why that recommendation exists in the first place. And how it connects to what your baby is experiencing during those early months. Sometimes, the simplest routines carry the most meaning. And what may feel like just another feeding is often part of something much bigger taking place over time. If you found this helpful, consider subscribing for more clear and supportive insights like this. And if this is something another parent might need to hear, sharing it could make a real difference.